There is a little clock on the screen, and it is counting down. 10 minutes, 9:59, 58. And right next to the thing you were only half thinking about buying, it says, in red, only 2 left. And something in your chest tightens. Your thumb moves a little faster. You are not really deciding anymore. You are reacting because a door is closing and you might be on the wrong side of it. So you buy, and the relief is instant. And then, a few days later, you notice the same item, back in stock, same price, that same timer freshly reset to 10 minutes, counting down for the next person. And you realize the door was never closing at all. There was no door. I want you to feel that little hit of embarrassment for just a second, and then I want you to let it go completely, because you did not get outsmarted. You got out-evolved. That tightening in your chest, that urgency, that fear of missing out, is not a personality flaw. It is a survival system, older than language, that was installed in you to keep your ancestors alive, and it is being deliberately, precisely triggered by a red clock on a web page. Today, as a doctor, I am going to take you inside your own nervous system and show you exactly what happens in your brain and your body in the 8 seconds after you see only 2 left. And then I am going to give you a way to shut that reaction off on demand. Welcome back. Let's talk about scarcity. If you have been following this series, you know the pattern by now. The store bends your path. The price tricks your eye. The 3 options steer your hand. Scarcity is different. Scarcity does not go after your logic at all. It goes underneath it, straight to the part of you that panics. And that is exactly what makes it the most powerful trigger in all of marketing. Let's start with the principle, and then I will show you the biology, because the biology is where this gets genuinely useful. The great persuasion researcher Robert Cialdini named scarcity as one of his core principles of influence. And the rule is brutally simple. We want things more when there is less of them. Not because they are better, just because they are scarce. Opportunities feel more valuable the moment they seem limited. And there is a beautiful, slightly absurd experiment that proves it. Back in 1975, a researcher named Stephen Wurtzel ran a study that has become famous, and it involved nothing more than cookies. He gave people a jar of cookies and asked them to rate how attractive and how valuable those cookies were. Some people got a jar with 10 cookies in it. Others got a jar with just 2. Same cookies, exactly. But the people who saw only 2 cookies rated them as more desirable, more valuable, and even predicted they would taste better. Nothing about the cookie changed. Only the number in the jar. Scarcity alone made them want it more. But here is the part of that study that should make the hair on your neck stand up. In one version, the researchers started people with a jar of 10 cookies, and then, in front of them, removed 8, leaving 2. And those people wanted the cookies most of all, even more than the people who had only ever seen 2. Because it was not just that the cookies were scarce. It was that they were becoming scarce, right now, in front of you, being taken away. That is the exact feeling every countdown timer and every selling fast banner is engineered to reproduce. Not there is little, but it is slipping away, and you are watching it happen. So now let me open up the hood, because this is where being a doctor changes everything about how you will see that red clock. When you perceive a threat, and losing out is processed by your brain as a threat, the signal does not go first to the calm, rational, deliberate part of your mind. It goes to a small, almond-shaped structure deep in your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is your alarm system. It is fast, it is ancient, and it does not do nuance. Its entire job is to detect danger and pull the trigger on your survival response before your thinking brain has even caught up. And when that alarm fires, It sets off a cascade through what we call your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system. Your adrenal glands release adrenaline. Your heart rate ticks up. Your pupils dilate. Stress hormones, including cortisol, move through your body. This is the exact same machinery that would fire if a predator stepped out in front of you on a path 10,000 years ago. It is a magnificent system for escaping a lion, and a countdown timer borrows it, wholesale, to sell you a phone case. Here is the crucial part, the part that explains everything. When that fight or flight system is active, it actively turns down the volume on your prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain, the seat of patience, planning, and careful judgment. This is by design. In a true emergency, you do not want to stop and weigh the pros and cons of running. You just need to run. So the body evolved to suppress slow, deliberate thinking exactly when the alarm is loudest. Which means that in the moment you feel that urgent squeeze, you are, quite literally and measurably, thinking with less of your rational brain online. Marketers are not persuading the smartest part of you. They are switching it off and then talking to what is left. And there is one more layer, and it is a cruel one. There is a landmark book by two researchers, the economist Sindel Mullainathan and the psychologist Eldar Shaffer, simply called Scarcity, and their finding is chilling. They showed that the feeling of scarcity, of not having enough, whether it is not enough money, not enough time, or not enough of a product before it sells out, actually consumes your mental bandwidth. It is like running too many programs on a computer. The scarcity itself taxes your ability to think clearly about anything, including the very decision in front of you. So urgency does not just switch off your judgment through fear. It also clogs your mental processor with the pressure of the ticking clock. You are being hit from two directions at once. Now you understand why only two left works even when a quiet voice in your head is whispering that it is probably fake. Because that whisper is coming from your prefrontal cortex, the exact part that just got turned down. The alarm is louder than the doubt. That is not weakness. That is neurology being played like a piano. And there is a name for that takeover, a term from the psychologist Daniel Goleman. The amygdala hijack, those moments when the alarm system seizes the controls and the thinking brain is locked out of the cockpit. But here is the deeper reason it works so well on a purchase. There is a concept from the economist George Lowenstein called the hot-cold empathy gap. In a calm, cold state, you genuinely cannot imagine how differently you will behave in a hot state, when you are aroused, rushed, or afraid. And once you are in the hot state, you cannot quite remember how reasonable you were a moment ago. Urgency deliberately drags you from cold to hot, into a version of your brain where your calm intentions simply evaporate. You promised yourself in the morning that you would not impulse buy today. The red clock does not argue with that promise. It just puts you in a different brain, one that never made it. And underneath all of it sits a single emotion, one so common it finally earned a name in the early 2000s. FOMO, the fear of missing out. Notice the operative word, fear. It is not the joy of getting. It is the fear of losing, of being the one left behind while everyone else got theirs. And decades of research on what psychologists call anticipated regret show that we will go to remarkable lengths and spend real money, not to gain pleasure, but simply to avoid the imagined future pain of having missed out. Marketers learn to sell you that regret in advance, and then offer the purchase as the cure. In that moment, you are not buying the product. You are buying your way out of a future you were just made to fear. So let me show you the specific instruments they play it with, because once you can name each one, it loses a stunning amount of its power. This is the catalog of manufactured scarcity, and you will start seeing it absolutely everywhere. First, the countdown timer. That ticking clock beside the checkout button. Sometimes it reflects a real, genuine deadline. Very often, it is scenery. Web developers have shown again and again that many of these timers simply reset when the page reloads or restart fresh for every single visitor. The urgency is a loop playing just for you, forever. In fact, regulators have noticed. The United States Federal Trade Commission has explicitly named false countdown timers and fake urgency as deceptive dark patterns and has taken action against them. When a government consumer protection agency has to write rules about your checkout clock, you know it was never really about the clock. Second, low stock warnings. Only 3 left in stock. Only 1 room left at this price. Sometimes true, often not, or true in a way that is meaningless because more arrives tomorrow. The travel and hotel booking sites became so notorious for this, flashing, 2 other people are looking at this room right now, that it became a case study in pressure design. The number is not there to inform you. It is there to start your heart. In fact, this got so out of hand that in 2019, Britain's competition regulator, the Competition and Markets Authority, formally cracked down on the hotel booking industry over exactly these tactics. The false, only 1 room left. The misleading, someone just booked this. The pressure countdowns. Major booking sites were ordered to change how they showed them. When an entire industry has to be legally told to stop frightening its own customers, you can stop wondering whether the fright was ever real. Third, the flash sale and the limited drop. 24 hours only. Available until midnight. The limited edition. The sneaker drop that sells out in 90 seconds. Here the scarcity is real. The quantity genuinely is limited, but it is limited on purpose, manufactured by the seller precisely to trigger the frenzy. When a brand could easily make more and chooses not to, the scarcity is not a fact of nature. It is a marketing decision aimed directly at your amygdala. And I have to tell you about the greatest act of manufactured scarcity in modern history, because once you know it, you will never read the words limited availability the same way again. For most of the 20th century, the diamond company De Beers controlled the overwhelming majority of the world's diamond supply. And here is the secret they did not put in the advertisements. Diamonds are not actually all that rare. There are enormous quantities of them in the ground. So to keep prices high, De Beers did something audacious. They deliberately stockpiled diamonds and released only a careful trickle into the market, manufacturing the scarcity on purpose. Then, with one of the most successful slogans ever written, "A diamond is forever," they convinced an entire culture that a scarce, expensive stone was the only acceptable symbol of love. The scarcity was invented. The demand was invented. And it worked so completely that most of us still feel it today. That is the ceiling of what this trick can do. It can rewrite what a whole civilization believes it is required to buy. And you see the very same logic, shrunk down, everywhere now. Think of the streetwear brands that release a tiny batch of a product, let it sell out in seconds, and watch it resell for 10 times the price the next morning. They could make more. They choose not to, because the scarcity is the product and the empty shelf is the advertisement. The luxury watchmaker with a multi-year waiting list is not always struggling to meet demand. Very often the waiting list itself is the strategy, because a watch you could simply walk in and buy would feel worth less than one you had to wait 2 years to be allowed to purchase. In every one of these cases, ask the single question that cuts straight through it. Could they make more if they wanted to? If the answer is yes, then the scarcity is not a fact about the world. It is a message aimed at you. Fourth, and most modern, the social scarcity signal. 120 people are viewing this right now. Sold out in most sizes. Back in stock, going fast. This one is especially clever because it fuses scarcity with the herd, two triggers in one. It tells your survival brain not only that the resource is running out, but that the tribe is already rushing for it, and you are falling behind. We will take apart that herd instinct in its own episode, because it deserves one. And if you want to see this biology in its rawest, most physical form, look no further than a Black Friday doorbuster. A store advertises a handful of televisions at an impossible price, a genuinely scarce quantity, available only the moment the doors open. And every year we see the same footage. Crowds sprinting, people shoving, sometimes getting hurt, over a discounted appliance they did not even know they wanted a week earlier. That is not simple greed. That is a stampede, the fight-or-flight system firing inside a literal crowd, scarcity, and the herd braided together and switched on at full volume. The calm, rational shopper does not stand a chance in that doorway, because in that doorway, for a few minutes, almost nobody has a calm, rational brain left. It is the purest visible demonstration of what a quiet little countdown clock is doing to you, alone, on your couch. Do you see the shape of all of them now? Every single one is engineered to do the exact same thing to your body. Fire the amygdala, flood you with a little adrenaline, quiet your prefrontal cortex, and get you to act inside that narrow window before your rational brain comes back online. They are not selling you a product in that moment. They are selling you relief from a feeling they manufactured 3 seconds earlier. So let's talk about how you take that window back. And the beautiful thing is, once you understand the biology, the defense almost designs itself, because you know exactly what you are trying to do. You are trying to get your prefrontal cortex back online. That is the whole game. Calm the alarm, and the spell breaks. Here is your defense, and it has two parts. The first is a single, powerful move. Name the feeling out loud if you can. When you feel that urgent squeeze, that quickening, literally say to yourself, I am feeling rushed right now. This sounds almost too simple, but there is real neuroscience behind it. Putting a feeling into words, what psychologists call affect labeling, has been shown in brain imaging studies to reduce activity in the amygdala and re-engage the prefrontal cortex. You are, with a single sentence, turning the alarm down and turning your judgment back on. Naming the manipulation is not just satisfying. It is physically interrupting the mechanism. And pair that sentence with one slow breath, and make the exhale longer than the inhale. That is not a figure of speech, it is physiology. A long, slow exhale activates your vagus nerve and your parasympathetic nervous system, the body's built-in brake, the exact counterweight to the fight-or-flight response the timer just triggered. One deliberate exhale begins, chemically, to lower the alarm. You are not calming down in some vague, motivational sense. You are manually switching your nervous system back out of the state the marketer just put it in. And the second part, once you are calm enough to think again, is one clean question. Ask yourself, if this were available forever at this exact price, would I still want it? That question does something surgical. It deletes the scarcity from the equation and leaves only the thing itself. If the honest answer is yes, then wonderful. Buy it. You are going to be happy with it either way. But if the answer is, well, no, not really, I just did not want to miss out, then congratulations. You just caught the trick red-handed. The clock was selling you the clock, not the product. And if the voice pushing you is really the fear of regret, then turn it around, because they have only shown you one kind of regret, the regret of not buying. Ask about the other one. The quiet kind almost nobody warns you about. The regret of the drawer full of things you bought under a ticking clock and never once used. Very few people lie awake grieving the flash sale they let pass. A great many of us wince at the pile of urgent purchases we never needed. Put the honest regret next to the manufactured one, and the clock loses every time. And if you want a simple, blunt instrument for the big ones, use the 24-hour rule we have talked about before. If something is genuinely worth buying, it is almost always still worth buying tomorrow. Real, rare, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities are extraordinarily uncommon in a world of infinite e-commerce. Manufactured ones expire every single night and are reborn every morning. Sleep on it. The truly scarce thing will wait for you. The fake scarcity will simply reset its timer and prove itself a liar. So the next time you see that little clock ticking down in red, and you feel your chest tighten and your thumbs start to move, I want you to do something almost defiant. Smile. Take one slow breath, which by itself begins to calm your nervous system, and say the words, "I am feeling rushed," and that is exactly what this is designed to do. Watch what happens. The clock keeps ticking, but you stop hearing it as a threat. It becomes what it always was, a little animation, a piece of theater, performing urgency for an audience that just walked out. You have your whole brain back. And a calm brain has never once been talked into anything. Before you go, I would love to hear from you, because these comments are genuinely my favorite part of doing this. Tell me, in one word or one line, what is the last thing you bought because a clock was ticking or a banner said it was almost gone? The flash sale gadget. The only two left, whatever. The limited drop you did not even really want. Put it down below, and then scroll and read a few others, and feel that warm relief of realizing the same red clock has been ticking for all of us. And here is where we go next, because I hinted at it already. Scarcity gets its power from fear of missing out. But what happens when the trick is not only two left, but 10,000 people already bought this? What happens when they stop using your fear and start using your deep, ancient need to belong to the group, to follow the herd, to not be the odd one out? That is one of the strongest forces in all of human behavior. And next episode, I am going to show you exactly how it is aimed at your wallet. Subscribe so it does not slip past you. And until then, do me one favor. When the clock starts ticking, name it and breathe. Stay awake.